How are we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to have a little bit of a play with Jewelcrafting, and we're going to get this leveled up as cost effectively and as quickly as possible. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer to start with Jewelcrafting. This one is in 2 significant stages, and you will have some options during this path, so be prepared to make some choices. There is a short but very cheap way, and there is a long and very expensive way, and this will all start to make a little bit more sense in a minute. But what I have done is I've also worked out exactly what materials you may need to achieve this. Ignore these gems over on the side for now. These will become apparent in a minute. What you actually need for the first part of this is just 200 ceravite ore, a handful of rousing earth, 5 misshapen filigree. These are a vendor item. Don't get caught out by trying to buy these off the auction house. These are a vendor item. You can grab these from a Jewelcrafting vendor that should be standing pretty much right next to your trainer. And you also need 7 silken gem dust. You can either choose to buy this off the auction house. This will be on the auction house pretty quickly, I'd imagine. And will probably also be quite cheap. Or alternatively, there is a way to generate some of this in a minute. We're going to pick up Jewelcrafting from level 5. Jewelcrafting requires level 5, and we can pick Dragonflight's Jewelcrafting from level 58. Now, before we get too deep into it, I just want to shout out the fact that all of this information and more is available in my Dragonflight goal making cheat sheet. All of the information about the leveling path, the shopping list you may need, and the process that you'll take to level it up is in the cheat sheet. Plus many, many more. Every single profession has a leveling guide and a shopping list to go with it. And this is just one part of the cheat sheet. There's much, much more in this for anybody out there that wants to make a bunch of gold in Dragonflight. If you happen to be a YouTube member, a patron of mine, or even a Twitch subscriber, you can find a link to the cheat sheet over on the Discord. It's a thank you from me for your continued support. So let's get going. So when we first open Jewelcrafting, we're not going to have many options available to us. The first thing we're going to want to do is get some gems. This is where the ceravite ore comes into play. We don't need anything super high quality. We only need quality 1 ceravite ore for this. As prospecting this will give us some basic bits and pieces, and we're going to prospect pretty much all of it. Between about 175 to 195 of it is what we actually probably need to prospect. Don't prospect it strictly all in one go. Save yourself 10 to 15 of the ceravite ore just in case you need a little bit later. You'll start getting from the ceravite ore some basic green gems or uncommon gems. There are 5 different color variations of gems, and if you're really lucky when prospecting the ceravite ore, you'll also get some of the rare variations as well. We will only be getting quality 1 gems at this point, but do not worry, we are not really pushing for max quality just at this point. We are simply just trying to get some gems in hand. This will also give us some fractured glass and some crumbled stone that will become useful later on in the leveling path as well. So let's get this leveled up. Whilst this should get us to 15 skill points. That's our aim by doing some prospecting, is to max out the first 15 skill points. If we can get them by just breaking down some materials, we might as well. Let's learn all the new bits and pieces we have access to. We are slightly running low on ore now. This is fine. I might pause it here just for now. Like I said, probably saving 25 of the ore. 25, 30 of the ore is probably sensible, just in case you need some more later. From here on out, we're going to craft ourselves exactly 2 sets of frameless lenses. These will give us a guaranteed skill point, and was why we needed some of the rousing earth to begin with. What you will notice is if you chose not to buy your silken gem dust off the auction house, you might need to come across some of this. You might need to manufacture this. This is where Dragonflight's crushing comes into play. Any spare gems that you don't strictly need, you can re-crush them. And when you crush spare gems you don't need, then that's where you get this silken gem dust. If you bought it off the auction house though, just craft a couple of these frameless lenses. That's going to get you up to skill 17. There we go. From 17 we're going to then look at crafting a pendant of impending perils. This is going to give us 2 skill points, and actually we're going to need to make a shimmering clasp before we can do this. This is another intermediate that we can craft ourselves, and why we bought some of the misshapen figurine. You should hopefully have had a mystic sapphire in your prospecting. We prospected enough that we should probably have a small amount of all of the gems at this point. Then we can make that pendant, which will push us to skill 19. Actually, I've just realised it's probably smart if we make 2 of these. There's a reason why we're making 2, because we then get to push to skill 21. It will all make sense in a minute. We make 2 of these impending perils. We learn all the new trainer recipes. Then we're going to make 2 sundered onyx loops. Where have they gone on our list? Sundered onyx loops. Here we go. This is actually a profession tool, and one of these we are going to equip. This is why we made the frameless lenses earlier. We're going to equip the best one of these we make. If we happen to be lucky in proc and inspiration and get a better one, we didn't. We just got the one. So let's equip this. This is our first introduction to a profession tool. As you can see, it gives us plus inspiration and plus multi-craft. These are some of the new crafting stats for Dragonflight, and will become quite important to max out this profession gear eventually. It's not super important right now, but it will be something you'll look to do in the future. 25 points is also a milestone. It's a milestone for us because it unlocks the specializations. With the specializations unlocked, you can start to have a little bit of a look about, a little bit of poke about, see what interests you, but I'd be careful about unlocking anything just yet. We unlock the first specialization, or you can pick one of the 4 when you get to 25 skill points. You get a second one after 50 skill points, a third after 75, and you need to max out your Jewelcrafting to 100 before you'll have access to all 4 specializations. Have a little bit of a look through them. You can have a read through them, see what some of them do, but don't be spending too many points, if any, to be honest, just yet. There's no undo button for your spending of points like there are with talent trees and the likes, so you've got to be really careful about placing these because you can't go backwards. But let's progress on then. Let's craft up some more. We are nearly at the point where we're not really having much things to craft. In fact, all we're going to do now is make 3 revitalizing red carvings. We need a little bit of glossy stone. This is not a problem. We can make some of that ourselves. We should have had some crumbled stone, and we purchased some rousing earth at the beginning. So we can make 3 of those. We should also then be able to make 3 shimmering clasps to go along with this, using up the last of the misshapen filigrees that we bought at the beginning. So you do have to do a little bit of shuffling for intermediate items. But considering you get the materials you need via prospecting in the beginning, it should be all good. Now we can make 3 of these, and this should push us to skill 30. Skill 30 is about as far as you naturally go with Jewelcrafting. Some of you who may have been watching some of the other guides will realise that skill 30 is a really early point in the guide for me to practically be telling people to stop here. Most of the time you look to get to about skill 50 or so before you stop. Now, this is where you have some options. It's at this point you'll have unlocked the Nosderite cuts. The Nosderite cuts are going to use the Nosderite gems. You may have noticed when prospecting, if you were lucky, you'd end up with more Nosderites and the baby version of the orange gem, the Eternity Amber. You end up with a lot more of these than you do anything else via prospecting. And this is because you are going to need a lot of them to continue leveling on from this point. There is a power level option. If you are really, if you've got deep pockets and you want to throw gold at this, you can power level. And you can continuously craft and cut these gems all the way up to skill 80. But that's going to require somewhere in the region of 70 Nosderite gems. My prediction is, if you are looking to do this at the start of Dragonflight, these Nosderite gems are going to be remarkably expensive. Because all of the other ones, people don't really want them just yet. People only are going to want the Nosderites for the purpose of leveling. So they're going to be super expensive. If you're watching this video, in the future, don't worry about it too much. As you'll be able to, you'll be able to pick these up quite cheap, I imagine, in the future. But at the beginning of the expansion, they're going to be ludicrously expensive. This is why I would sort of take the time now to have a think about what you want to do. To give you some numbers here, I prospected 500 Draconium ore. and I got a little over 20 Nosderite gems, which means you could, in theory, craft 20 of these from this point on, get to 50 skill points, and unlock your second specialization tree. That is about as much as I would recommend most people do right now. Otherwise, I am in the, I run the risk of telling people to go out and buy loads of super expensive Nosderite gems, which could just do crazy things to the market. There is another pattern you will have noticed that you'll have unlocked called the Time Watcher's Patience. This is a cooldown. We cannot do this repeatedly. This is on a quite lengthy cooldown, if I remember correctly. Can I grab a silken gem dust just to run the cooldown now? It acts like a transmute. Some of you may have noticed that let's just break down some of these for a minute. Give me a gem. Give me a gem dust. There we go. We only need the one. Some of you may have noticed that it works a little bit like a transmute, and you take the basic ones, you take the orange, the uncommon orange gems, the Eternity Amber, and when you create one of these, it'll give you a little item, which when you open it, it's put it all the way over here for some reason. When you open it, it will give you 3 Nosderite gems. So this is a transmute that you can do, and this is what I would suggest most people do. Unless you are strictly looking to power level Jewelcrafting as fast as humanly possible, this should be your ticket to getting some Nosderite gems without having to pay ludicrous amounts of gold. Each time you press this button, it triggers a 20-hour cooldown, so you're going to need to come back at least once a day to do this. But you should be able to slowly but surely get some Nosderite cuts from this, and then you can look at crafting some gems, and it's going to be a much more cost-effective way of leveling up from this point. Alternatively, buy a whole stack of draconium ore and get prospecting, but expect the amount of this that you're going to plow through to try and get the Nosderite gems to level up to be incredibly expensive. Not to mention, every single Nosderite gem cut also uses an awakened frost, awakened fire, awakened earth, and awakened air. These themselves are likely to be, my guesstimation on these is that they're going to be over 500 gold each just by themselves. So these gems are not going to be cheap to craft. Jewelcrafting is never a cheap profession, and Dragonflight is no different there. To give you a little bit of a hint of where you could potentially find some other patterns to craft, if you go out into the world and you start doing some of the rep grind, there are some more patterns that you can pick up through reputation. There are lots of gem cuts that you could pick up as well. Some of them are going to come from different places. Some will come from the spec trees. Some of them will require some reputation to pick up. If you can pick up some of the other gem cuts quite quickly at the beginning of the expansion, you can save yourself a whole heap of cash when leveling Jewelcrafting, because they'll start to utilize some of the other rare gems that you'll be getting via prospecting, making it so that not all of these, bonus gems are going to waste. The worst and most the most costly way of doing anything with prospecting is to be laser focused on one material and have no use for the others. So my suggestion is to stop at about 30. I know it seems really weird, it seems very odd, but it's just the way that it's been designed in Dragonflight. But head out into the real world, head out into the world to do some rep grinding. Maybe take a look at the gem tree if you want to focus on gems. The faceting tree is specific about gems and will also give you some of the, once you start specializing into it, it will give you some patterns to learn through here as well. And then that will get you from 30 onwards. But there we go, boys and girls. I'll leave it there for this one. I know it was a bit of a weird one, and I know it's a little bit different to how most of the other leveling guides have gone. But Jewelcrafting is a bit strange like that. If you enjoyed the video, boys and girls, give the video a like. Consider subscribing if you're new around here. And I'll catch you all next time. Peace.